What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are here every single day bringing you the hottest, freshest, most up-to-date news from around the NHL. And today we have got something absolutely massive to break down for you. Because we are talking about a potential blockbuster deal that could completely reshape the Toronto Maple Leafs forward group before the puck even drops on the 2026-27 season. We are talking about a 6'8" giant of a power forward, a towering presence that could walk through Scotiabank Arena and immediately make every single opponent in the Eastern Conference sweat a little bit. And the man sending him over? None other than the Pittsburgh Penguins. That is right, folks. The Penguins and the Maple Leafs could be making a major move involving one of the most physically imposing forwards in the entire National Hockey League, and we are going to break down every single angle of this story today. So buckle up, grab your coffee, let's get into it. Now, before we get to the player himself, we need to set the stage here, because context is everything when we talk about these kinds of trades. Let's talk about where the Toronto Maple Leafs are right now heading into this upcoming season. This has been an absolutely wild offseason for this franchise. The Maple Leafs went through a massive identity crisis last season. They fell short of expectations again, and the front office decided it was time to blow things up and reload. We are talking about a team that brought in Sergei Bobrovsky in net, added Darren Radish on the blue line, welcomed Jack Roslovic into the fold, and perhaps most excitingly, landed the number 1 overall pick in the 2026 NHL draft in Gavin McKenna, who is one of the most hyped and electric young players that this league has seen in a long time. The Leafs are clearly in a retooling phase. They are building something. They are mixing veterans with youth. They are trying to find the right blend that is finally going to get them deep into the playoffs. But here is the thing, even with all of those moves, when you look at their current forward group, there is still a hole. There is still a gap in their bottom six that needs addressing before training camp gets here. And that is exactly where this trade conversation becomes so fascinating. Because the Pittsburgh Penguins, on the other side of this potential deal, find themselves in a very different situation. Pittsburgh is also in a transitional period. They have a surplus of NHL-caliber forwards on their roster right now. They have more warm bodies up front than they have roster spots, and that kind of logjam creates opportunity. It creates trade market flexibility. It means teams around the league are picking up the phone and calling Pittsburgh's general manager asking what is available. And one name that keeps getting circulated, one name that keeps popping up in these conversations, is Elmer Söderblom. Say that name. Elmer Söderblom. Because if this deal gets done, that name is going to be all over Toronto for years to come. So who exactly is Elmer Söderblom? Let's introduce him to anybody who might not be completely up to speed on this guy, because he is genuinely one of the most unique physical specimens in the entire NHL. The man is 6 feet and 8 inches tall. 6'8". To put that into perspective for you, the average NHL forward is around 6'1". Elmer Söderblom makes the average NHL forward look like a peewee hockey player standing next to him. He is a mountain of a human being. He is an absolute giant on skates, and what makes him so fascinating is that he is not just a big body taking up space. The man can actually play hockey. He can score, he can hit, he can protect the puck, and he has a release on his shot that gives goaltenders nightmares because when a 6'8" man is winding up from the top of the circle, the angles are completely different than what goalies are used to seeing. Soderblom was originally a 6th-round pick back in the 2019 NHL draft, and he was selected by the Detroit Red Wings. Now, when you are a 6th-round pick, nobody expects much from you. 6th-round picks are lottery tickets. They are flyers. Most of them never even sniff the NHL. But Soderblom? He defied the odds. He worked his way up through the system, he put in the time in Sweden, he put in the time in the AHL, and he eventually carved himself out a legitimate role at the highest level of hockey in the world. With Detroit in the 2024-25 season, he put up 4 goals and 11 points in just 26 games. Those are not mind-blowing numbers on the surface, but when you factor in the context, the fact that he was fighting for ice time, that he was buried in the depth chart, that he was not getting top-line minutes, those numbers actually tell a really encouraging story about his offensive potential when given a legitimate opportunity. Then came the trade deadline, and Detroit moved him to Pittsburgh. And when Soderblom got to the Penguins, something clicked. In 20 games with Pittsburgh in the second half of the season, he posted 5 goals and 10 points. That is a half point per game pace. That is not a depth guy, folks. That is a player starting to find his footing, starting to gain confidence, starting to show exactly why scouts have always believed there is a genuine top-9 forward hiding inside that enormous frame. And then in the 2026 playoffs, yes, the Pittsburgh Penguins actually made the playoffs and took on the Philadelphia Flyers in the first round. Soderblom was right there in the mix, wearing that number 25 sweater, battling in the trenches and reminding everyone watching just how physically punishing he can be when he is engaged. When you combine his regular season and playoff numbers from this past season, you are looking at a player who recorded 99 hits in 59 games. 99 hits. That is a player who is active, who is physical, who is making life miserable for opposing defensemen every single shift he takes. For the Toronto Maple Leafs, a team that has sometimes been criticized over the years for being too soft, too skilled, too reliant on finesse without the necessary grit and sandpaper to back it up. A player like Elmer Söderblom is absolutely mouthwatering. He brings exactly the kind of element that this team has been missing. He is the kind of guy who changes the way opponents play against you. He is the kind of guy who, when he is coming down the wing with the puck, defensemen are thinking twice before they step up and try to take away that puck carrier. Because if Elmer Söderblom runs through you at full speed, you are going to feel that for the rest of the period, if not the rest of the game. Now let's talk about the actual trade proposal itself, because the structure of this deal is really interesting and it makes a lot of sense for both sides. The trade pitch that has been floated would have the Toronto Maple Leafs sending Philippe Myers and a second-round pick in 2027 over to Pittsburgh in exchange for Elmer Söderblom. Let's break down what both teams are getting here. For Toronto, they are landing exactly the kind of physical, big-bodied forward they have been identified as needing. They are adding a 25-year-old player who is in the prime developmental window of his career, who has already proven he belongs in the NHL, and who carries the kind of size and physicality that instantly makes their lineup harder to play against. Soderblom, at 25 years old, is not a finished product. He is a player who still has untapped ceiling. If the Leafs can put him in the right situation, give him consistent minutes, pair him with the right line mates, and make him feel comfortable, there is a real possibility that he takes a significant step forward next season and becomes one of those stories where people are saying they always knew he had it in him. The fit in Toronto's bottom six is actually excellent when you map it out. Soderblom is versatile enough to play left wing or right wing, which means head coach Craig Berube would have genuine flexibility when constructing his line combinations. On the third line, he would bring a presence and a threat level that would open up space for the skilled players higher up in the lineup. On the fourth line, his physicality and his tenacity make him a genuine weapon when it comes to winning battles along the boards and in front of the net. And when the Maple Leafs are on the power play and they need a big body parked in front of the opposing goaltender creating havoc and screening, are you going to find a better option in the entire league than a 6'8" man who already knows how to use his size effectively? On the Pittsburgh side of this deal, they are getting a second-round pick in 2027, which helps them replenish their prospect pipeline as they continue figuring out what direction they want to go as an organization. They are also getting Philippe Myers, who is a veteran defenseman that brings professional experience and some physicality of his own on the blue line. For a Penguins team that is trying to figure out its identity in the post-Crosby transitional era, adding a reliable defensive piece and a future draft pick is a reasonable return for a player who, while valuable, is somewhat expendable given their forward depth situation. But here is the bigger picture conversation, and I want you to really think about this for a second. We know that the Maple Leafs have been incredibly active this offseason. We know that Craig Berube was brought in to bring a different kind of culture to this locker room, a grittier culture, a harder working culture, a team-first mentality that is less about individual brilliance and more about collective will. Every single move that this front office has made this summer seems to be pointing in that direction. And when you think about it through that lens, acquiring Elmer Söderblom is not just a hockey decision, it is a culture decision. It is another piece of the puzzle in terms of building the exact kind of team that Craig Berube wants to put on the ice every single night. Think about what this Maple Leafs roster could look like with Soderblom in the fold. You have got Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner doing their thing at the top of the lineup, creating offense and generating chances at an elite level. You have got the excitement of Gavin McKenna, the number 1 overall pick, potentially coming in and turning heads right away. You have got Sergei Bobrovsky between the pipes, a guy with a Stanley Cup ring who knows how to win when it matters most. You have got Jack Roslovic adding skill and versatility in the middle of the lineup. And now you potentially have Elmer Söderblom at the bottom of that forward group, grinding away, wearing opponents down, scoring some timely goals, and making sure that every team that steps into Scotiabank Arena knows that the Maple Leafs are not just a pretty team anymore. They are a tough team. They are a team with teeth. Now let me address what I know some of you are already thinking. Some of you are going to say, okay, he is big, he is physical, he can hit, but is he good enough to actually contribute offensively at a meaningful level for a team trying to compete? And that is a fair question. That is the right question to ask. And the honest answer is that in 106 career NHL games spread over 3 seasons, Soderblom has recorded 16 goals, 16 assists, and 32 points. Those are solid numbers for a depth player, and the trend line is pointing upward. Every single season he has been in the league, he has been more comfortable, more confident, and more productive. He is still only 25 years old. He is still learning. And when you look at what he did in those 20 games with Pittsburgh at the end of last season, 5 goals, 10 points,